Sonic's had a rough transition to 3D. What is up, people? It's your boy Smoke Joe Star, aka Smoke Man Joe, aka Spin Dash Supreme, and I'm back with another video. The gameplay you're seeing in the back is just some fan games: Sonic Rush 3D, Sonic Robo Blast 2, and Sonic GT. They're all really fun. Go download them. Go download them from the fan sites. They're all over the place. They've been out for at least a year. Go play them shits. But that's not the topic of today's video. No. We're talking about the 3 most common things that you hear in the media when the Sonic cycle starts anew. So you know we got Frontiers coming out. The movie's been doing numbers. We got Prime coming to Netflix. There's a lot of positive light, and I'm just here to kind of hopefully forewarn and or stave off these 3 key phrases that you're gonna be hearing when Frontiers drops. So let's get to it. The first on the list is that Sonic was always bad. Yeah, okay, cuck. So let me just explain why those scores are relevant, right? So in their first outing in 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog sold 15 million units on the Genesis alone. You don't do that with a bad game, especially in the 90s where gaming wasn't as big as it was going to be later that same decade. But you don't make a bad game and dethrone Nintendo, who was the only person at that point in time who had the home console market share until Sega made their mark on the industry by dropping one of the best-selling games of 1991 and dethroning them from platform supremacy. Like, just a little bit more context, Nintendo was on their second console by the time that the Genesis dropped and Sonic came out. So they were the only brand name in the home as far as like home consoles go. Arcades were still around in the 90s, but the Atari, the Jaguar, all of that other shit had just fallen to the wayside. Nintendo was literally the only way to play a game at home, and they had franchises, dude. They had Metroid, Capcom made Mega Man, but for the time that was a Nintendo exclusive. They had Mario, they had a Legend of Zelda. Like, yeah, that was nothing to fucking laugh at, bro. That was no small feat. And in 1 year, Nintendo's market share went from 100 to around 40-45% after Sonic dropped. But it's always been bad. Yeah, okay, sound good, bitch ass nigga. And again, I mean, I just want to reiterate, review scores are not everything. I'm a huge proponent of, play the game and judge for yourself. But when people reference Sonic and their relation to the franchise, it's usually based off of what the media has said. Like, I'll probably do another video on it, but there was like an entire damn near decade where it was just cool if you were a review outlet or a YouTuber to not like the new Sonic game regardless of quality. And that shit is just insane. But for argument's sake, for the sake of the video, I posted up those scores just to refute that argument that it was always bad. Like 15 million units sold on your first outing up against the only other competitor in the market who had dominated the market for 6 years is not bad. That's not a telltale sign of a bad game or a bad franchise, because you can't name me a singular bad thing that has remained for 30 years outside of capitalism. But that's not what we do on this channel. We talk about video games and Sonic and shit. I should have specified. You can't name me a singular gaming franchise that has been bad from the beginning, that has stuck around for 30 years and continues to sell either close to or over 1 million copies every release. You can't do it. That argument is stupid as shit, and I hope that people stop using that when they're talking about this franchise. So the next one I actually wanted to talk about, I'm going to save for last because I feel like it's the most important one. So we'll go with point number 2, and that's Sonic hasn't had a good game since yada yada yada. Like, this is another incredibly, like, subjective and revisionist argument that comes from, you know, when people themselves, whatever they consider their last enjoyable Sonic game was, and they base every game off of their enjoyment and experience with that game. Like, a lot of the classic fans don't like the adventure era games simply because they aren't the classic games. A lot of modern era fans don't like the adventure era games simply because they aren't the modern era games. And, you know, the adventure fans don't really care for the portable games because they aren't the adventure games, but the classic fans like the portable games because they're like the classic games. It's a lot of back and forth. It's all really dumb because there are, honestly, objectively, like, games that people agree on have no redeeming qualities. There are about 4 or 5 of those, and I will list those for you right now. Up first, we have Shadow the Hedgehog. This is nobody's favorite Sonic game. Game sucks, dude. Sonic 06, you've heard thousands of reviews about this. I'm not going into detail. Sonic 4 Episode 1, shitty physics. It's a mobile game ported to consoles. Who cares? Sonic Forces, nothing in this game is good except the soundtrack, but it's a Sonic soundtrack. Secret Rings, yeah, it feels weird, it's clunky, it's 720, game sucks. But that's about it, in all honesty. Like, I don't get this notion where, like, people get the idea that pretty much every game from Heroes up until whatever the current year Sonic game is a bad game. Like, you're entitled to your opinion, dude. If you don't like the game, that's cool, but make sure it's yours. Don't let the media shape your opinion of a game that you haven't played. And I know that's going to fall on deaf ears because people do it all the time. It's been happening since game journalism blew up the way it did back in the early 2000s. But the fact that people are taking reviews, which are opinions, as facts is incredibly damaging to the medium as a whole, but more specifically this franchise, because outside of those 5 games that I just listed, every other game has at least been functional and competent. Now, everybody has a different definition of what makes a game bad, but to me, a game is bad when it fails at what it sets out to do. Now, that could be technical issues or failing to tell the story or gameplay issues or just bad mechanics, you know, what have you. But Sonic game, I want to run fast. I want to hear good music. Most of those games do that without any technical difficulties, with the exception of the 5 that I listed. Of course, I have my favorite Sonic games, ones that I would put over others, but to say that they've all been bad since my last favorite one is just completely duplicitous. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Yeah, you know what? Like, I enjoyed this game when I was 10, and I'm going to play it again as a 30-year-old, and it's bad. It's almost like you're not the demographic anymore, and you gotta realize that, man. Like, I love Sonic. I will always love Sonic. But this game is a franchise that is mostly made for young children and fresh teenagers. That is it. Like, it just is what it is, man. We gotta hold that. As the 30-plus crowd that grew up with the originals, or hell, even the 20-year-olds now that grew up playing Adventure and Heroes and Unleashed and shit, like, it's just not the demographic anymore. And taking it a step further, people just act like the portable games didn't fucking happen, dude. Like, there were like, what, 5 major portable games? The advanced games, Rush Adventure, that all came out that were all fantastic games. Like, they were great games. They stuck true to the classic formula, the 2D side-scrolling. Hell, Rush introduced the boost formula, and it's still, in my opinion, one of the best games with the boost formula in it. On the DS, no less. Like, you can't discount those games just because they aren't the ones that you liked, or, you know, you didn't particularly care for them, which again is fine. But to say that they were bad because you didn't enjoy them as much as the other game is just, that's not fair. That's just not fair to the game itself, man. But anyway, you know me, I like to show proof when I make claims, so run them goddamn scores again, babe. So yeah, when people say like Sonic wasn't good or hasn't been good since 19XX or 20XX, I really don't know what the fuck they be saying, because there was only really like a 2 or 3 game span, consecutive game span, where you could say that, you know, these games are bad. But it's always been a dumb argument. It's always been unfounded and completely revisionist. Stop it. And finally, the one that everybody's been waiting for, say it with me, Sonic had a rough transition to 3D. I have hated this since like 2004, I think was when it first started coming around, 2004, 2005. Because nobody ever defines it. It's just like, yeah, the Sonic had a rough transition. By what merit, dude? Because like all the other platformers around the time were basically 3D carbon copies of their 2D counterparts, and that's exactly what Sonic Adventure was, because that's the first real full 3D Sonic game. It was also the only real speed-based platformer of its time to be done in 3D, and that shit was damn near perfect. Of course, it hasn't, you know, aged the best graphically, and I mean, it's a 23-year-old game, so what game has? But the gameplay still holds up. I still think it's the best that Sonic's felt in 3D. Like, you know, with your instant canceled spin dashes and those same spin dashes helping you build momentum. The physics are really good. The homing attack was introduced and it works flawlessly as a way to dispatch enemies in a 3D space. Like, for the series transition to 3D, it's honestly like the perfect transition, really. And that's not even me being a hardcore Sonic fan. Objectively, out of all the transitions, it was executed the best, really. And I mean, because if this is a bad transition, then these next two are god awful. And yes, I mean that in all fucking seriousness, because nobody has ever given me a reason of why the shit was a bad transition. It's just, that's my favorite YouTuber or gaming outlet said it, so therefore it is a fact of life, 100% true. And I'm just like, it took the classic formula, gave it to us in 3D, and while also giving us another staple move in the homing attack, one of the best soundtracks in the franchise, and set the tone for the next decade of games. Like, what was bad about it? Leave it in the comments if you really know what was objectively bad about the transition from Sonic 3 and Knuckles to Sonic Adventure 1. What the fuck? You know, let's hit them with them scores one last time. Sonic Adventure was not a bad transition. I will show you a bad transition.
Now, what would a platform game be without platforms? I wonder if there's any extra lives up there.
So in conclusion, bad franchise? Nah. Franchise with some bad games in it? Sure. Like, no, I don't think any franchise that's ever existed is without its missteps, save for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But like, just the unfair portrayal that like the media gives this franchise a lot is why I wanted to make this video, because these three things have been recycled for the past at least 15 years. And I'm honestly just tired of hearing it and people just blindly accepting it because that's what's been the norm. I mean, the comics are in a great place. The movie did numbers. We got Origins dropping next month, in a few weeks actually. Frontiers gameplay is getting shown next month. A lot to look forward to, man. They have confidence in the game. I haven't played it, so I don't have a judgment. I will definitely be streaming it when it drops. Then I'll make my judgment on it. I try not to make preemptive judgments about something unless it's just abysmally bad. But yeah, these three rumors that we talked about in this video just need to be deaded because they're usually unfounded and just factually incorrect. And I hope you saw that through everything that we went over, from review scores, from coming from somebody who's been a part of the franchise since its inception. Dude, I'm 30. I'll be 31 this year. Just like Sonic will, I've played every single game to completion. A lot of stuff that's being said is either just wrong or incredibly revisionist. But I just wanted to take an objective look at the franchise and some of the more common things that I hear about it and just kind of put those to rest. Like, just, a bad franchise, $1 billion. Okay. $1 billion franchise, 30 years old, that's been bad from the beginning. Say it slowly and tell me if that shit makes sense. Subscribe here. Subscribe to the Twitch. It's the same name, Smoke Joe Star. Look forward to seeing you on these Sonic adventures. Get it? Get it? Because that's the name of one of the games, and we talked about. So okay. See you later.